I like to use watercolour as a medium because, again, it's very sort of portable and accessible. Also, it's you can kind of use it as obviously a painting medium, but it can be also a drawing as well, so it can be kind of quite fluid and very responsive, so you can be sort of quite quick with it, which I respond to it that way. I know people use it in different ways, artists, but so it's usually to get an idea out quickly, and you can work on many at the same time as well. So yeah, that's predominantly why I like to use watercolour. So for source material, I tend to use found images from the internet. I've been recently looking at nets from geometric forms as well. And so it could be quite specific. But then sometimes I work from like everyday as well, everyday objects or what's around me or in the studio. Also being in the school, there's facilities, and the design technology department also, they have stencil offcuts which they often give to me, which is quite fun to use, like of different forms. So it's like in an educational environment, so I kind of like using them as well. So if I'm working on watercolour or gouache, depending, not all the time I stretch the paper. It is good practice to do that because then obviously you don't get the buckling, but I kind of quite like it sometimes when it's sort of quite intuitive and I just sort of grab any paper and then just work on it as I go along. So I mean, if I'm working with watercolour or gouache, I probably wouldn't use stencils. It's probably a lot to do with line and colour. That's probably what I'm more sort of concentrating on. Or sometimes I put a wash at the background, not all the time, but sometimes. So my influences and the different artists that I tend to look at I like American artists called Joanne Greenbaum and Thomas Nosgowski. You could describe them as American abstract painters. And then I tend to look at my sort of peers that I studied with at the Royal College or contemporaries, what's happening around me, because I kind of quite like looking at their work and sort of being able to contextualise where I sit as well as a practising artist. I would probably describe myself as a bit of a colourist, so I use a lot of colour, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. But I'm very happy with cadmiums, so reds, yellow. I do like, obviously, the classics ultramarine and cobalt blue. Naples yellow, that's kind of a favourite that I tend to use as instead